For question 11, you need to focus on how years are said. We can see the first one down there, 1612. So again, like 1998, you need to, in this case, 1795, 1943. You know, have a think about that before you listen. It'll be much easier to catch them. For 12, there are different ways to say, you know, century, right? It could be the first century, the second century, it could be the 14th century. So that's something to be aware of when you're listening for this one. For 3, for 13, we can guess that it's likely a job, okay? A wealthy from Liverpool. So my guess here, and I don't check the answers before, but you know, in this context, we can kind of feel like it's a job or a title. For 14, we can kind of feel that it's, you know, going to be another family member, his son and, right? Like we can kind of guess that, hey, it must be another family member he's about to say. And for 15, you can see that the is underlined before 15. The is a hint for a company or organization. So when you see this on a speaking test, you know that it's not going to be someone's name. We don't say the Adam, okay? But we do say, like, you know, the, you know, company name, so, or the organization. So just be aware of that. Moving on to question 16. It seems quite straightforward, but be careful of the speaker changing, right? They might talk about multiple rooms, so you just have to be aware of that. For 17, again, it seems quite straightforward, but they might talk about multiple rooms, right? So it could be like the kitchen changed or the game rooms changed. So just be aware of that. But again, these questions do seem quite straightforward. For 18, again, just listen carefully when you hear books, okay? They might talk about multiple types of books, and you just have to pick the one that you hear. For 19, focus on first and the keywords, okay? You know, it might have had multiple uses, but again, you have to focus on that. And for 20, listen carefully after you hear furniture and century, okay? Because this is where you have to listen for the 15th or 16th, okay? These answers do look similar, right? You got 15th, 16th, 17th. They're all kind of bunched in, so you do have to listen quite carefully after you hear furniture and century. For question 11, we can see that the answer is 1490. And here it is underlined. You know, it was built between 1490 and 1612. So there it is there. You know, you can hear the word built between and then those two numbers. For question 12, it was owned by the Norris family until, you know, the 18th century. I just want to be very clear with the pronunciation there. Here it is underlined. So it's quite a bit here to catch and quite a few hints. So for most of its history, Speak Hall was owned by the Norris family. So there we can see Norris family. However, during the 18th century, there you go, 18th century, the Norris family fell upon hard times, and the house fell into disrepair and was almost destroyed, okay? So when you hear the term hard times, you might not know what that means, but it basically means something bad happened, maybe bankrupt, disrepair. So we can feel that their ownership ended at that time. For question 13, Richard Watt, a wealthy, and then here's the job, right? Merchant. And there it is there. Richard Watt, a wealthy merchant. And for question 14, well, we talked about the family member, his son and his grandson. Now his grandson is in brackets here because you don't have to write down his for this answer. And here it is, restoration work on the house, which was continued by both his son and later his grandson. So again, you don't have to write his, you could just write grandson. And for question 15, in 1943, Spec Hall was put under the care of, and then remember and then here's the organization, National Trust. So here it is, in 1940, was put under the care of the National Trust. So yeah, we talked about before how the would not come before like a person's name. It would be before an organization or a company. Moving on to question 16, kind of which room has wood panels on it, on the walls? Well, the answer is A. And here we can see here, small dining room. Okay, so that's what we're focusing. And then later, after, the walls of this room are covered in wood panels. So they mention, one sentence they finish with small dining room, and then you'll hear, they're covered in wood panels. For question 17, when was the kitchen changed to the games room? Well, the answer there is C, and we've underlined them here. And was originally a kitchen, but was changed to a games room and used for a snooker and billiards in the 1860s, okay? So, yeah, I mean, snooker, it's a kind of way of playing pool, and that's the answer there. And, those are games that can be played. For question 18, on what themes are the books on the shelf? Well, the answer is B. And, they do mention not lots, but a few different, types of books. So the shelves contain many rare and valuable books on themes such as estate management, religion, ding ding, as well as novels, okay? So that was the one that was mentioned in the multiple choice. So the answer is religion. And for question 19, what does the guide say the gun room was used as? Well, there's a lot to underline. So there's gun room, and then but it may have also been used as a chapel earlier. So, they do mention gun room, and then there's some referencing, right? So gun room, and then this is quite a small room, right? So they go on to talk about the gun room, but again, they're not completely connected. So you do have to keep listening after you hear the word gun room. And for question 20, from what period is the furniture in the Great Hall? Okay, I've underlined quite a bit for this. So we'll go through it. So Great Hall, and then they talk later about this room, again referencing back to Great Hall, would have been used as a banquet hall during the 16th and 17th centuries with furniture, here we go, from that period. So there's two referencing, right? So this room refers back to Great Hall, and then with furniture refers back to, the Great Hall. So it kind of refers back twice, and from this period, right? So it's quite tricky. So again, that is, the 16th century, and from that period is referencing back to the 17th century. So just be careful of that when you're doing the test. They do, trick people by referencing. They'll mention it once, but then they'll, say from this period, and they're talking about that time that they already mentioned.